I told you it was coming, and here it is. The second part to the Ultimate Fnaf Guide. But before I do that, let me first dust off some cobwebs. If you haven't seen the first part, I would highly recommend checking that out because, well, you know, one comes before two. Unless, of course, you don't give a damn about the first two Fnaf games and the implication their theories have on the rest of the series. In that case, you're totally fine right here. Either way, last time we went over all the implications the first two games have on the lore of the series as a whole. I actually took the video a step further and went into the difference between Michael Afton and William Afton, the possibility that William Afton and his son are seen as the same color by the animatronics, and since the minigames are all in 8-bit style, we could have easily been confusing Michael for his father or vice versa. Basically, I went over a bunch of shit in that video, so if you haven't seen it, don't remember it, or just want a refresher before we move on to FNAF 3, now would be the time to do that. Everyone all caught up? I don't really know why I'm asking. I literally can't hear anything anybody is saying, so I'm just gonna assume it's a yes, and then I'm gonna move on. Last time we finished with FNAF 2, so this time we're gonna start with FNAF 3, because again, the 3 comes after 2. FNAF 3 is set 30 years in the future after the events that took place at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. You are yet again another night guard, but in this game your role is more than that. You're working at a horror attraction built around the events of the Fazbear franchise, and not only are you on guard duty, but you're also a part of the attraction as the security guard. So the idea was that people would walk through the attraction, learn about the lore of the franchise, get all scared, and see you as part of the attraction playing the night guard, while also you're actually doing that job. Way to cut down on expenses, Fazbear Fright. Why hire an actor when you can hire the real deal? Anyway, the attraction hasn't really opened yet, so you're just there helping to test shit out and making sure nothing goes wrong. But this is a FNAF game. This is going to go about as well as asking your high school math teacher to the prom. At best, they say no. At worst, you get them fired. And speaking of fires, our new phone guy makes sure to let us know that it's super important that nothing catches fire. Captain Obvious over here, right? So the game starts out pretty easy. The first night really has nothing to kill you with. However, on the second night, new phone guy informs you that they found a real animatronic from the restaurant, so now it's part of the attraction. Say hello to your good buddy Springtrap. He's very much alive and not super happy, so let's try to not die to him, okay? One of the other things they found in the old restaurant were training tapes starring our old pal, Phone Guy OG. So let's talk about what we learned from Phone Guy through these old cassette tapes. Phone Guy's old tapes reveal a couple of important aspects about the Fazbear franchise. At one point, Freddy's had 2 Springlock suits that could be used as either animatronics or costumes that a person could wear. To wear the Springlock suits, you needed a crank to recoil and compress the animatronic parts around the sides of the suit. By doing this, the animatronic part of the suit made enough room for a human to wear and use the suit. However, the slightest pressure or moisture could cause the suit to malfunction, releasing the machinery and killing the person inside. Now, if I was told that someone carelessly bumping into me might kill me, I probably wouldn't want to wear one of those suits. But the FNAF franchise has never really been about safety, has it? I mean, one of the rules of safety in FNAF 1 was no pooping on the floor. So that pretty much sums up how they feel about safety regulations. We also learned from Phone Guy that these suits are preset to walk towards any sounds they hear while in animatronic mode. And on night 4, Phone Guy's tapes let us know that an incident at the restaurant's sister location involving multiple Springlock suit failures resulted in the company deeming the Springlock suits unsafe to use. Yeah, because the slight pressure or moisture killing someone wasn't a dead giveaway. Now, of all this information Phone Guy gives us, there's one key detail we've been overlooking in our analysis of FNAF 3. And again, this is one of the reasons why we're going over all the earlier games, because they have within them key details that help tie together the entire series. Recently, we've been focusing a little too much on the newer games, despite the fact that the older ones have really important details in them. Phone Guy tells us that in the animatronic mode, the suits are designed to go towards noise. Now, this makes complete sense based on what we see in FNAF 3. Springtrap always goes towards Balloon Boy's call when we use it. Now, here's where this information gets interesting. We know that Purple Guy, who we've defined as Michael Afton, not William Afton, is the one who gets stuck in the golden Bonnie suit. We see it happen during one of the mini-games in FNAF 3. But we also know from the sister location custom night cutscene that Michael should already be dead, but doesn't die.
You won't die. You won't die. You won't die.
He's purple and his body is decayed, but the person inside isn't dead. And we know from the very last custom night cutscene that Michael is still very much alive in the Springtrap suit. After his short monologue, we see Springtrap appear, and behind him is a scene that reads Fazbear Fright. So when the spring locks were triggered during that minigame in FNAF 3, it seems like the animatronic mode is also triggered. This means that during FNAF 3, even though Michael is very much alive inside Springtrap, he isn't actually controlling the suit. This was another reason why we believed Purple Guy, aka Michael, was the killer. We thought that he was still trying to kill from inside the Springlock suit, and that he was possessing the suit from beyond the grave. But he's not in control during FNAF 3. The animatronic inside is reacting to where sound is, proving that the animatronic is what's in control of the costume. What this means is that the Golden Bonnie animatronic was actually programmed to kill, or that it was tampered with and then reprogrammed to kill. This shifts blame towards the creators of the animatronics, and as of right now, the only person we know for sure who was involved with that was William Afton. He did have a partner in the FNAF books, and that partner's name is Henry, but we don't know for sure whether that character actually transfers over into the video game universe. Now, let's talk for a second about the minigames in FNAF 3. There's a ton of different minigames that you need to complete to get the good ending to the game. Each one revolves around getting a dead child a cake. Here's my thoughts on these games. During the end of the night minigames, we see Michael dismantling animatronics as they attempt to get into the secret room that they aren't programmed to see. Michael, who I'm assuming went back to the Fazbear restaurant after Barbing Up Ennard, is trying to understand what happened to his restaurant and why the animatronics are programmed the way they are. He's trying to unravel what his father did. When he dismantles an animatronic, that allows the child's spirit to escape from the animatronic. Those spirits then get put to rest during the secret cake minigames. Getting the good ending shows us that those animatronics Michael broke up are no longer active, but Springtrap is missing from this lineup. So Michael is following his father's footsteps, fixing his mistakes. The dead children mistake him for his father since they are seen in the same color, and he gets trapped in the Golden Bonnie suit. The rest of the children are put to rest, hence their suits being dark in the good ending. But since Michael is still alive somehow, he isn't in the good ending photo, and instead we see him in the background of the newspaper explaining that Fazbear Fright burnt to the ground. Damn it! New Phone Guy told us to not let fire happen. You had one job! But that really wraps up what we wanted to cover in FNAF 3. So let's move onwards and upwards and backwards to FNAF 4. FNAF 4 is without a doubt one of the most important games in the franchise. We learn so much about the lore from this game. It starts out with the text 5 days until the party, letting us know that there's basically a countdown happening and something is going to happen on the final night. We play as a crying child, scared of the FNAF monsters trying to kill us. Honestly, the gameplay of this game isn't really important. I mean, sure, we see hospital items next to our bed, which allows us to infer we're in a hospital. But the juicy part of this game comes completely from the minigames between each night. During each night, we follow the story of our sad-faced protagonist, who wants to be at Fazbear's Pizza about as much as I want my mom to give me a sex talk. Mom, I'm 25 now. I understand sex. Mostly. As we go through this game, we find out about a couple really important details. First off, we see that there is indeed a purple guy with a badge in this FNAF franchise. Now, is this the purple guy? I don't think so. I think we're seeing our good buddy William Afton right here. Now, why do I think that? Well, it's fairly clear based on the details of this game that it's the earliest in the series. There's only 2 working animatronics and they're both gold. In every other game, the golden animatronics are broken and dirty and not functioning. That implies that this game came before all the others. We also know that this child is being brought to Freddy's daily for 5 nights straight up until a party. That implies a couple things to me. First off, it means that one of the children's parents probably worked there. This is backed up by a dismantled or not yet assembled mangle lying in the child's house. It also makes sense why the child would have a bunch of Freddy plushies when he hates the place. This mainly points to William Afton being the household owner and father of this child. And that would make sense considering we see Afton in the restaurant. It would also make sense for why Mangle, an animatronic not yet part of the Fazbear franchise at this point in time, is laying in pieces in the house. The house's owner runs the franchise, and so his children end up spending a ton of time there whether they like it or not. And that would mean that this asshole of a brother is actually Michael Afton. Now you may be wondering, how come he's not purple if he's purple in all the other games? Well, I have a good answer for that. Actually, I have a couple answers. The most obvious would be that, well, he's still a child, and he's going to look a lot different when he grows up. But I also have another theory. Assuming these minigames are an 8-bit style because that's how the animatronics see the world, then it makes sense that Michael would look differently in FNAF 4 and in every other game for one specific reason. We never see his face in FNAF 4. He's always wearing a Foxy mask. Remember that the animatronics are equipped with facial recognition software, but if they never see his face, then they won't recognize him. However, in later games, we do see his face, so he gets recognized as purple, part of the owner's family. In this game, we witness the bite of 87, and so more importantly, get introduced to the Afton family. We know from the house there's William, Michael, our crying child protagonist, and a girl due to the girl's room in the household. And thanks to sister location, we know that this red-headed girl is almost certainly the daughter of William Afton. FNAF 4 is basically just meeting the family that has been cursed by the Fazbear franchise. Because as we know, William goes to jail, Michael gets kicked and puppeteered by Ennard, then brought back to life, and then trapped inside a springlock suit, and then the daughter gets killed by her alter animatronic ego. But that happens in sister location. And speaking of FNAF sister location, let's talk about FNAF sister location, the last game in the series. At least for now. Here's where the story really gets interesting. Right off the bat, we hear a conversation between an unnamed man and a man named Mr. Afton, aka William Afton, aka douche nozzle extraordinaire. And we know for sure it's William and not Michael who is talking here because we have Michael's voice line from later in the game and the voices don't match. So what does this mean? Well, it says right in the Freddy Files book, quote, Afton apparently designed the animatronics you'll meet in this game. That means that Afton designed the Funtime animatronics and Baby. And we know from Baby's cupcake minigame and her monologue while we hide under a desk that she was designed to kill when only one child was around. We also know from the daughter's voice lines between each night that her father tried to keep her away from Baby, proving even more that her father, William Afton, built these animatronics to kill. Sister location gives us the rest of the pieces to put together for the games thus far. It updates us on what happens to William's daughter and his older son after we find out what happened to William's youngest son in FNAF 4. Sister location actually brings the lore full circle, giving us insight into what happened to each member of the Afton family. His youngest son is in a hospital, possibly dead. His daughter is dead by his own invention. His elder son should be dead but miraculously survived the unsurvivable, but now lives in a decaying body that is trapped inside a springlock suit, and he's out for revenge against his father. And of course, William Afton is in jail. When we put all the games together and go through them one by one, the entirety of the FNAF lore isn't as complicated and mysterious as we thought. It's just the tale of one family whose father essentially destroyed all their lives. While the books are indeed a part of the FNAF franchise, they're on a completely different playing field than the games. They take place in a different universe, and there's no way to verify that something that happens in the books definitely happens in the games. In fact, many things are vastly different between the books and the games. The Freddy Files acknowledges that, and only touches on each book for about a page, giving a brief character description for each character and talking about some of the stuff that happened in each book. But it doesn't tie their lore into any of the games at all. So I don't want to overstep with assumptions by assuming things that happen in the book also happened in some of the games. It feels nasty. And there's still one more novel coming up, so I'm gonna leave any questions I have about the books to, well, I'm just gonna wait for that book to come out, and then I'll speculate on what's going on in those books when that actually arrives. But perhaps the most important thing to note about the Freddy Files is that at the end of the book, it specifically says there's certainly more games to come. This contradicts what Scott recently said in a Steam post, but if it's true, it's very likely we will finally see the conclusion to FNAF. There's no more members of Afton's family to make games on, just him and Michael. A family feud that has lasted 5 games may finally come to an end if they ever release a 6th. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the ultimate FNAF guide, wrapped into 2 videos because one would have been long as shit. So yeah, hopefully that all made sense. If you have anything you wanted to add or think is super important, maybe you think we missed something, then just comment down below and we'll do our best to read it and do something with it. Besides that, don't forget to like and subscribe and do all that fun stuff, and hit that bell. And the bell's always a good thing to hit. You'll get notified as soon as we post a video, and I'm glad I could ramble at you for the last however long it's been. So thank you, that's all I have for today, and I'll see you guys in the next video, or the one after that, kind of depends. Bye.